Oh my God, here we go. It's week 7. Boys rule and girls drool, bitches. Is this gonna play?
Abrupt, isn't it?
So abrupt. So
I don't know.
abrupt. I gotta really get on the dude that makes those things. He's
We just need a
slacking.
gentle fade out. That's all.
He's
Just a nice
slacking
gentle
at his
fade.
job. Well, I gotta
Or
redo the
maybe
whole thing.
or like a screen wipe.
Screen wipe, yeah. Okay, so hey kids, if you notice, it's just the boys this week. The boys are taking over while the girls are out. Uh, so it's just us. But I wanted to start out the show with doing something a little different because we like to get a little crazy when it's just the boys, and Dana has this obsession with bathhouses. So I thought it'd be really fun to start this week off. I'll check the chat in just a second, guys. I can't see it right now because I'm going to show this thing on my memories this week. This pops up. Okay. From Brian Shutterbeaver.
See,
Leaving
it's not me.
Leaving the nude beach. Damn, I love that place. Why that's on my memories? I'm not even really sure.
I probably
But apparently, I guess. Hey, Lashana, I saw she was at Awesome Con. She got some great pictures with folks. Oh, and there's Christopher Cox.
One time, the sumo wrestler guy was like chasing me in the water at Oliver. That was about Oliver Beach, the nude beach.
Well, that's exciting.
It's a fun.
How
beach.
did you end up at a nude beach? Speaking of how we ended up this way.
And how did you
I
make
looked
a
it up.
man chase you?
I was down in
Oh,
we
you
were at
didn't
South
end up
Beach.
there. He found it.
No, I sought it out. Yeah.
Yeah. They have one in Moravia, I hear. Isn't there one?
Oh,
Well, they told me
There
they
was-
told me that there was a section that if you go over the
Wow.
fence, fun things happen. But nobody was there.
Oh, see, yeah, we had kind of a thing when Missy and I were kids. My uncle and father were working on this campground in Locke,
Uh-huh.
and it was a nude camp. It wasn't open, so it was, whatever. So we were there, and we had to go to the bathroom, so we went inside the cabin or whatever, and we opened the door, and there's all these toys all over the bathroom with pictures and things, and we didn't really, we were younger, so we were like, oh, that looks like a penis. We were a little traumatized. Then we opened this other door, and it's a room, and it was like something out of a movie where there's just all these pictures and all these like cutout magazine photos like all over the floor. Come to find out, didn't the guy get busted for like being a pedophile?
Oh my.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was actually no sex at this beach. This was just like people
It was-
naked.
Yeah. Oh, what?
And honestly, it was a lot of really old fucking people naked, like
That's
really
what.
fucking old.
It's like the
Dang.
YMCA locker room. It's like every year past 50 means they get 1 inch closer to you when they talk to you in the locker room. Like, eventually they just get to the point where you're like sitting on the bench and they throw like a leg up and they're just like Captain Morganing it in your face, and they're having a conversation about the weather and how crazy expensive gas is. It's not where you want to be.
See, I didn't mind as a child. I enjoyed the locker rooms. I enjoyed hanging out and doing my hair in the mirrors.
Hey.
Especially at what the hell was that, Fillmore Glen? We used to go camping, and I would do my hair an awful lot until Uncle Kenny
Isn't there
found
was a-
out. He's
isn't-
like, "You don't need to be in here. It's no place for a kid." Son of a bitch.
Isn't there a
Oh, my
nude
good
beach out
time.
there, a nude camp or something out there somewhere?
Yeah, that's
That
what
was
about, the one in Locke.
that's what I was talking about. Locke, Murray. But
No, there's one. I thought there was one in Moravia.
I thought there was too, but it might have been the
Locke
one in
is
Locke.
like Moravia.
Yeah,
You
they're right
could throw
next
a
to each other.
stone. Yeah,
I don't know.
it was a camp. It was like up on a hill. Yeah, it was crazy.
So
Yeah.
Brian, what's going on at your house right now?
Anything exciting?
You got that? You got that? You got that contamination scene going on?
Oh, Miss Vid.
Yeah.
Yeah, Miss Vid found my husband.
Did you see that TikTok?
Oh dear.
What's TikTok?
Oh, I don't know. I wouldn't know what Spartan's talking about.
Mm.
There may or may not be a TikTok. If you go over to My Uncensored Radio on TikTok, you could check some out. Maybe you could, I don't know what he's talking about, but there might be something relevant. I'm sorry, Brian. I didn't mean to interrupt your story. What's going on at your house, honey?
Oh no, I just said we got the Vid visiting.
Oh,
She'll
you
run
got
through.
herpes, did you?
The herpes. Yeah, a long time ago.
Oh, I hate
No,
that.
I'm
It's a
just
bitch to get rid of.
Fail tracks.
No.
So we got the COVID, huh?
The COVID, yeah. Yeah, no, he's not that sick, but
How's your wee
he's
one?
not dying or anything. He doesn't seem to have any symptoms or anything so far, so.
Well, that's good.
I took like 3 tests and I'm negative, so.
Yay.
So it's just a hubby.
Yeah. Well, he's mostly
So-
the one that goes out. I stay at home, so.
So,
No
and
more
how is
open
he when
houses
he
for
gets
now.
sick?
Wait,
Is he
what?
like, does he get man sick?
Oh, God.
Is he a whiny buns or does he take care of himself?
Well, he's is kind of whiny, but he has to take care of himself because he's with me.
Okay.
I was gonna
I mean,
say
if he's rich,
now would be the great
If-
time to be. Well, I don't want the baby getting sick, so I gotta go stay someplace else.
well, he's not really that sick. Like, he's not like he just has like sniffles and stuff. So it's not like he's not like fucking dying or something.
I wouldn't chance it. I'd make him leave.
It doesn't even seem like the flu or anything.
No. Oh
I'd
yeah, a
make
lot
him
of
go
people.
some-
Yes.
Shots, it's not supposed to be as bad, right?
No. Yeah, a lot of people just have mild
Yeah,
symptoms. It's not.
Yeah, he's triple vaccinated. We all
Yeah.
are. Well, except for
Yeah.
the baby, obviously.
Cool.
We're good. Well,
Hopefully the
he-
baby doesn't get it.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it stays that way and it doesn't get any worse.
Yeah, for real.
So,
Yeah.
I have a nice little segue here. Jeffrey,
Yes.
you and your boys this evening, it sounded like you had a little bit of bedtime fiasco, little frustration happening going on.
Oh my God.
Girl, how did they go to bed with the fucking sun out?
What do you mean? I mean, they
Looks like
go to
it's
bed.
daytime there.
They go to bed at 7. That's it. That's what time we go to
Do you
bed.
have like
That's-
do you have like blackout curtains or something?
I mean, yeah, it gets pretty dark in there. Yeah, we've got good
Oh,
blinds.
okay.
But
Anyways,
I mean, that's just always been the time they go to bed, so it doesn't really phase them. And I mean, they're tired by 7. So
Oh.
it's always worked. But yeah, tonight they were just, they were handing me a bunch of lemons. So this week, I'm going to have Katrina A. Johnson from Nickelodeon's All That make me some lemonade while I'm in Atlanta, Georgia at Ranger Stop and Pop. We're going to be selling lemons. So if you're in the Atlanta area, come see myself, Angelique Bates, and Katrina A. Johnson. Just saying.
Do it.
When does
I mean,
it?
if
What
you're-
day does that start?
June 10th through the 12th. Be at Ranger
Okay.
Stop and Pop at the Sheridan downtown Atlanta. There will be a bunch of Power Rangers there. The original April O'Neil from the Ninja Turtles movie. She's going to be there. Judith Hoge, I think is her name.
Yeah.
She's quite lovely. I met her a couple of months ago. Nice lady. And then, a bunch of people from
Is it
Power
a Comic-Con?
Rangers. And it's Karen, Nakia, and
Is it like a
this
90s
gentleman,
theme?
Mikey. Well, it's Power Rangers in 90s. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah. So it's the first one I'm working in a decade. So it's a little stressful. Leaving the kids for a week for the first time in years. A little nerve-wracking.
What is Lidge taking him?
Yeah, let's just go watch the
Lucky
kids.
Lidge.
Yeah,
Lucky
yeah,
Lidge.
yeah. She's just over here barely walking. I'm like, you sure are you up for this, chick?
She's like, you better come back, bitch. No.
I was like, the ocean's only 5 hours away, right?
Ta-da.
I don't know if I'm coming back. So yeah, we'll see. And then so the convention's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then Thursday we have a separate event going on in Atlanta. Save the Video Store, which if you go check out our social media pages, we actually have a contest. We're giving away VIP tickets.
The
You can
video
go to
store.
Save the Video Store. I think it's .com. We've had commercials up on there. It's pretty awesome. Check it out. You can get VIP tickets from us. You can win them. You just got to follow, like, and share, tag some friends. So go check that out. It's on ours, Angelique Bates on Instagram, and Katrina A. Johnson on Instagram. Any of our pages, you can find the contest rules, and you can find how to get tickets on there. And that's Thursday the 9th that we'll be there. But that event also goes on all weekend. So, yeah, check those
Is that
out.
at a different location?
Yes. So we're only there Thursday, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday we're at Ranger Stop. So we're busy. We're busy.
Busy.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, who would have thought? Like when you're a kid, you're like watching the Power Rangers, and you know what? When I grow up, I'm just gonna hang out with these guys, and then here you are.
So when I was a kid, we used to get to the bus stop, and like me and my friends would have like a whole conversation about the power. It was like a big deal. It was on in the mornings too, at like 6:30.
Yep.
It was the bigger trippy thing for me, like I was more the Melrose Place kid. So when we had Josie Bissett on, like that was kind of more my thing. Or, when Jake had Rosie on, or when we did Ricky Lake, Leah Remy. We got to talk about like when she was on Saved by the Bell and her kissing Zach Morris on the beach. It was, it's
Leah
trippy,
Remy
right?
was on
It's
Saved by
trippy.
the Bell?
Yeah, she was in the summer
I
episodes.
didn't know that.
Yeah. But no, it was definitely, when
I used to love Saved by the Bell.
Mm-hmm.
Karen and Catherine replaced Amy Jo, the original pink chick, and Mighty Morphin. They were down here in March, we hung out, and we went to go see the Batman, and like sitting with them in the movie theater, and I'm just like, this definitely is trippy, right? Like if you would have told my younger self, like flash forward all those years later, I would have went to LA and filmed a reality show and done the show with them.
I felt like that.
And like Roseanne
I felt like
Barr's
that when I
kid.
picked up, Michael Fishman.
Michael Fishman. Yeah, it's crazy.
We're
right?
sitting
How
on
we
your
ended
couch
up this
talking.
way.
I'm like, this is crazy.
Yeah, made him sleep in a bedroom or in the daycare room with a shitty diaper.
Poor Michael Fishman.
Yeah, well, shit happens.
Anyway.
Every day.
So,
Sure.
Dana, you
Yep.
had a very fascinating topic for this evening.
I did, and I thought there's a lot of I don't know. I mean, as far as like social interaction goes, it's probably it kind of divides the people of Earth into two different categories. I mean, you've kind of got people that focus on like their own selves and their own emotions, and people that focus on the people around them. And my idea for tonight was to talk about how good, you come to the core of it is how well can you identify what emotion you're actually feeling when you feel it? And do you even notice it right away? Because it'll affect your behavior, it'll affect your outward, like your attitude, and it'll affect your mood. But you may not even really realize what's causing it until you take a second. You're like, why am I grumpy? Or why am I being quiet? Or like, why do I feel tense? And like, it's usually that point like where you kind of question it. Like, why am I being this way? Or sometimes you don't even notice. Maybe somebody else notices and like, hey, you're being weird. What's going on? Like,
Yeah.
So that's what I'm talking about tonight. I think we should explore our own ability to perceive our emotions, how that affects other people, how it affects ourselves, how it affects behavior, and how that's changed from when we were younger until today.
I think it's fascinating.
Yeah.
I think for me, right, emotions were something you didn't really talk about in
Mhm.
my house growing up.
Same here.
I don't know that anybody taught me emotions were a weakness, but that's definitely how I felt.
Mhm.
Um, and I just remember there was a pivotal point in my marriage where one day I realized that I was I took out my whatever it was, frustration, my anger, like I'd wake up on the wrong side of the bed. Like I was tired, I was exhausted, and I was just snappish.
Mhm.
And he got the brunt of that, right? And it wasn't about him, it was
No.
about me. And finally, one day, I was like, you know what? This isn't about you, and I'm sorry. And when I'm like this, you need to check me.
Mhm.
You need to say something and not allow me to do this.
Right.
Um, because it's not okay. And then finally, I think the one day, I'm just so, too. And like, that was, I had called Kelly. When I was in New York, I grabbed one of my old phones because we were trying to hack into Katrina's Twitter. And of course, I saw some old text messages. It was fine. It didn't bring up any like emotions, right? But the interesting thing was to me, I saw a dude that was constantly stressed out, who felt like he was never heard.
Mhm.
Um,
So a
and he
lot
was in,
different than now.
yeah, yeah, and he was in a lot of trouble, right? Like he was constantly asking for help.
Yeah.
And no, it is a lot different because now I'm able to say like, you know what I mean? I know like I
Yeah.
didn't get enough sleep last night, so I'm bitchy.
Mhm.
And I know the things that I need to do in order to counterbalance that. Um,
Yeah.
where back then it was like just kind of learning, you're still in your 20s and trying to figure out like, why am I being such a bitch?
Yeah.
Or
Like,
why am I so overly emotional today?
yeah.
Why is everything affecting me?
Like you were saying when you were a kid, like you never really were taught that you should talk about your emotions and process them. Like it's probably the same as when I was a kid to a certain extent, like where it was when you had an emotion, like when you were overly excited and like antsy, it was, hey, calm down. So you shut that emotion down. Or when you're really
Right.
sad, it was, oh, calm down. Here, stop being sad. So shut that emotion down. And when you're angry, it's like, hey, don't be angry, shut that down. Like it was constantly being told, like, don't show your emotions, don't have your emotions, shut them down. And that's not
Right. 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 And
I
then
honestly, I think that's
go
one of the big things that we do wrong as like a society. We raise boys that way, and
oh yeah.
I think it's one of the reasons we have like such one of the reasons that we have such a gun problem in America, because boys are taught to never feel their emotions or to always suppress them, or to they're never taught to like just feel them, know what they are, and let them go.
Yeah.
So you end up, you know, I don't know who it
And
was,
then,
but
and then
some people,
you could take it even further than that. Like
yeah,
when you start to get a little bit older and you're like a teenager, and say you're just in a funk. Maybe you're having a hard time at school with your friends or whatever, and you're just depressed
right.
for a few days. And your parents are like, "Oh, hey, there's something wrong with you. Is what's wrong with you? Is that?" And they're immediately planting that seed, like, "Oh, wow, all right. So feeling sad means there's something wrong with me. I better. I'm not. I guess I'm not sad. There's nothing wrong with me."
right.
Yeah.
Like it's the whole way of addressing emotions is really it's I think it's really stunted a lot of people and kind of handicapped them to their own ability to process their normal human experience to a certain
Yeah.
extent.
Did you get
Yeah.
sent to therapy?
Oh, yeah, well, yeah. I mean, stuff
Oh
happens.
yeah.
But maybe even that, like, that's another example. Like, I'd already been conditioned so much at that point. Like, I think I was like 12 when I got sent to therapy. And as a 12-year-old, what made sense to me was, oh, no, I'm fine. I don't remember anything bad happening, and I'm fine. Because I don't want to be broken. I don't want to have problems. So if I'm
Right.
fine, they'll leave me alone, and I can be fine. Like, and that was it. I was like, oh, I don't really like going to therapy. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm all right. So
I I
I'd already
I,
been conditioned to not even accept therapy at that point.
I think I asked to go because I just one of the things like Jenny Patlin and I talk about a lot is she never felt heard. When you don't feel heard, you're kind of always over explaining.
Oh
You're
yeah.
always trying to be heard or trying to explain yourself.
Mhm.
Um, and like this therapist, like I just was mortified. She's like doing a pie graph, and I'm like, by the time we were done, I'm like, I didn't need you to tell me any of this, lady. Like, I told you all this when I walked in. Like, so
Not
what?
helpful.
Yeah, what are we doing here? You know what I mean? And then they shoved Zoloft down my throat, and I hated it. And then that was it. I swore
All
meds
right.
off for 10 years. I'm like, this was a terrible experience.
What about you,
Uh,
Brian? Like, what was it like when you were a kid? Like, if you had like some kind of emotional thing, like you got angry or were sad or like crying, what was it like when you were
Well,
a
it
kid?
depends. It depends who I was with. Like my mom, most of the time I was with my mom, who was kind of like pull yourself up by the bootstraps.
Hmm.
There wasn't really, I don't know. It wouldn't have mattered if we were a boy or a girl for her. I
Oh,
think
here's a
she
good
would
one.
just,
Toughen up, be a man. Right?
yeah. I don't know if she said that exactly, but she would. Like I
your
said, it
mom's
wouldn't have
just
mattered
kind
if
of a tough.
it
She's
wouldn't have
one of
mattered. Yeah, whether we were a girl.
she's
Yeah,
that
exactly.
she's just
She
kind of
would have
that person of
expected the
like you
same.
power through. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
So like that was one of my big problems, especially like in relationships, is that I just would like shut down and just
Oh
wait
yeah.
for the storm to pass.
Hmm.
But
Yep.
you can't do that in a relationship.
No, the avoidance. No, you don't want
Yeah.
conflict. I don't want that
Yeah.
bad feeling, so I'll just avoid. I know
Yeah,
what that.
exactly.
And I was the polar opposite.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I want to talk about everything.
Oh, me
Well,
too,
I
Sparky.
do. I like talking. I prefer talking about that to somebody who's a stranger. Like I like therapy actually.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in the relationship, like if we have a problem, like I feel like you know what I mean. The conflict drives me crazy. Like I don't want to have a
Oh
conflict,
yeah, me too.
but I need to solve it, right? Like I need to
Oh,
feel some
exactly.
sort of resolution.
Or
Otherwise, I feel sick to my stomach.
oh, and the
Yeah.
worst part is when it's not even about an action. The most frustrating arguments I have is when somebody makes it about the actual incident instead of processing how you feel about it. Like oh well, I'm sorry I messed up your dinner. I'll buy you dinner. Are we cool? Like, no, it's not about buying me dinner and replacing a thing. It's about like talking to me about like how did you mess up dinner? How did you feel when that happened? Like, I know how I felt. This is how I felt. Like, what's your perspective? Can we talk about that and like process like
Right.
where we were coming from, what our intentions were, like
Yes.
through that, like, and then the there's certain people
Yes.
I think that just don't comprehend that sort of thing. They're
Uh-huh.
like, well, this action happened and then this action happened, so it's complete now. Now compare that to somebody else who's really looking for like an emotional like conclusion to a situation to feel good about, like, oh well, this person's intentions were to do this and it was an accident, or maybe they were having a bad day and the thing happened and oh that sucks. Okay, I understand. I can be compassionate for that. And then you work through it and you get back to the same page. But when you have somebody that's focused strictly on like actions and consequences versus actually like dealing with somebody who's looking for an emotional resolution, it's like you're speaking two different languages. Have you ever had
Yes.
something like that happen?
Um. Yes. Yes.
It gets frustrating, right?
Yes. Yes. It was. Yes. It's a challenge. I mean, I think it's very difficult, and two, when you don't realize what that is,
Oh, I know.
I think is even the harder part of it, right? When
Hmm.
you know that there's a problem, but you don't even know how to articulate.
Because you're never taught it when you're younger.
Yeah, you have no idea how to explain. Like, okay, we're not connecting here. We're not understanding each other, and I don't understand. Like, I like you can see what's going on, but you don't know how to put into
Yeah.
words
All you have is
what
that feeling. Like,
is.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's such a frustrating and heartbreaking thing.
Hmm.
And then my favorite is can we just move on? Can we just forget about this?
Oh, and that's the worst is that like you're just resigning because you're like the points aren't just going to meet, and it's not worth tearing myself up about.
And I do think it's sometimes you do have to do that, right? Like there are some times I think in any relationship,
Sure.
friendship, whatever, marriage, you just have to know that you're not going to agree, and there is no peace. There's no happy ending to that moment, and just be okay with moving on.
Yeah.
But it can't be every time.
That's
Yeah.
where you really start to learn. If nobody's ever taught you about boundaries, that's a great place to start. Like
Oh.
once you start, I have a system of buckets, I call it. Like I have a bucket and everybody else has a bucket. Like Brian, I have a bucket for you, and Jeffrey, I have a bucket for you. And what happens is those buckets have a little leak in the bottom. And if you pile a bunch of crap in that bucket to the point where it doesn't leak out after a while and it fills up to the top and it starts to overflow, I lose my junk on you and I can't be around you. Like I'm like, there's been way too many of these negative experiences in this bucket and it hasn't emptied out yet. Like I need to set a boundary here. Be like, this has got to stop. Or like,
What? I think at some point it just gets to it where it's like there's nothing left to. I have nothing left to give.
Yeah.
Right, and it's like this is not working. I'm not happy, and there's nothing here. Right, like it's just a toxic relationship. Like it's a waste dump of toxicity, and it's time to go. Like somebody has to walk away.
Brian, have you ever been in a relationship where you don't argue, where you just get to the point where that the outcome isn't going to be what either person wants? And
I don't think I've ever had a relationship where I don't argue.
No. Jeffrey, you have.
Friendship relationship.
Have you ever resigned to the fact that like something's upset you, but you know that even just bringing it up is going to frustrate you because you're not going to work through it. You know, it's just impossible to work through it with the person. So you're just like, whatever, just let it go. Yeah. That's when you know you're in trouble. Like when you
my whole marriage.
Yeah. Because I remember you guys used to do that a lot. Like Joe would come home from the gym or something and he'd sit down on the porch for a second and he'd say a couple of things and then he'd just disappear. And you're like, what's Joe's problem? How come he's not hanging out? Like it was just that quiet ignoring of the elephant in the room, you know?
Well, and the funny thing is there was times, so like when my friend Shannon and I, we did daycare, we'd be sitting on the couch, right? And like, whatever would be going on. And I'm like, okay, he's going to come in. He's going to say this. I'm going to say, right. I'd lay out word for word what was going to happen, how he was going to react, what his mannerisms would be like. And she would sit there and be hysterical, which would piss him off even more. And I would nail it, right? Like I just knew exactly what he was going to say. I'd say what I was going to say and he'd storm off. Yeah. And that's what, you know what I mean? Like I just knew it didn't matter at that point what I said, and it really at the end of the relationship was it was a living hell. Like we were both on eggshells because we didn't know what was going to set the other one off.
Yeah. And you're looking
we just
for
weren't
it too.
happy.
When you're in those close quarters, you become hypersensitive to the other people's
we weren't.
tells,
I mean,
just like
I constantly was working. I did that thing where I buried myself in work and avoided being home as much as possible. When I was home, I found, I was with the kids. I found things to do. You know what I mean? Like we were living together but apart. Like it wasn't, we were roommates, really.
And so that's where I was talking about at the beginning. Like it kind of divides people into two different categories. Like you have one person in that situation where they become less in touch with their emotions, I think that they're like, oh, this isn't working. Oh, this feeling isn't good. I'm just going to not have it. I'm going to just focus on something else. And they're not even going to try to introspect and try to learn what is going on and figure it out and dig into their feelings and their history and whatever. They're just going to ignore it and get more desensitized to it. Then you've got the other person that becomes hypersensitive to it because they want to work through it and they want to make the problem go away. So you've got somebody who actually may have a more sensitive personality, but because they're in this position, it develops into a hypersensitivity, just like somebody who's blind can all of a sudden like hear their surroundings. Like you start to pick up on so many little subtle cues. Oh,
It's interesting.
That's what I think about empaths a lot, because like I think sometimes people become empaths because they grew up in a house that was, very chaotic and stuff.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so they learned to be very
Oh, yeah.
acutely aware of,
But you had
their
to.
surroundings,
Oh, yeah.
of course, yeah.
You had to. Like that was the way of survival. You had to be able to read the temperature of whoever was walking in the door to know.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I had-
That was the same thing. That was like with my stepdad. He was,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
he
Was he
never
angry?
knew. Oh, he's an alcoholic. And
Oh,
angry.
okay.
Luckily, he would usually come home at like 5:30, 6 o'clock and just pass out on the couch and
Yeah.
then take himself to bed, which
Yeah.
was preferable. Because if he didn't do that,
Yeah. Well, I bet you probably learned like, oh, well, there's some certain things that I shouldn't do when he's like this because it's going to set him off. There's certain
God,
things I can do when he starts to get a little triggered that maybe can calm him down. Like you probably had to be aware of that as a kid.
oh, absolutely.
Yep.
That's my life right now.
Yeah. I mean, tell you about anxiety. Like when you have to be hyper vigilant for like when the next blow up's going to happen or when the next meltdown's going to come or when the next like unloading on you is going to happen. Like you're like always braced for impact. Like the more it happens and the longer it goes on, you just become like shell shocked. You're like, oh, when's it going to hit? And
Yeah, he becomes kind of like a heckler too. So you got like,
oh yeah, where he tries to coax the conflict out of you so he can have his emote.
yeah, he just heckles everybody that's there.
He's
'Cause
a
I guess
bully.
Yeah. Now I have to like say that he's a lot better now, like than he was when he was younger. Like he doesn't drink like that anymore.
Aren't we all?
So that's a positive thing. But yeah, when we were kids, he was.
Right. Well, could you imagine, like, if we could go back with the knowledge you have older in life to when you were younger? What a game changer. Like, right? Youth really
I
is
think
wasted
everybody
on the
would, yeah.
young.
Yeah, really.
You know?
Yeah, but
Like,
we wouldn't
there's-
Like, come on, time machine.
We wouldn't have ended up this way if we didn't have a
Yeah,
chance
that's
to
true.
learn the hard way, I guess.
It's
I
true.
mean, sometimes it's got to be trial by fire.
Well, I think
much
people
fire.
grow the most when they suffer. Unfortunately.
So that comes down to now we're coming back around to like you have situations that cause these different type of reactions, but what do you think like in the people that you interact with now on the day-to-day, like in your peer group, can you kind of identify people that fall in one category or the other, and what kind of group of people do you more closely relate to or kind of gravitate towards? You don't have to. No, I mean like towards somebody who's like more like feelings based.
I like the
about
Misfits.
that or the what?
Remember that movie Misfits? With the Misfit toys.
The Misfit toys. Yeah, yeah.
Rudolph.
Yeah, those are the people I like. Yeah,
And what's
I'm
his name?
Rudolph.
The
I like
dentist. The dentist elf.
You know, Brian, if you would have asked me like 7 years ago, I'd have been like, yes, the Misfits. And now I'm like, you know what? The Misfits stole all my Hallmark Christmas ornaments. The Misfits robbed me blind. They stole my medication. I think I'm good on the Misfits.
Yeah, you gotta be selective about some of the Misfits, I guess.
Actually,
I- you know,
nowadays I don't really leave my house. So no.
I'm right.
no
I'm
check
done
anymore.
running a
Yeah.
charity.
But when I'm talking about when I was younger.
Yeah. Well, I think we all were, right? I think the three of us, I think I can speak for I feel like the three of us were misfits in our own individual ways,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
and we each kind of had our own group, and Brian and I, we were young enough that our groups mingled together, and
Yeah.
Dana ours came later, but very much misfits.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I tried so hard. Like, all I wanted to do is make people laugh and be entertaining and try to
Yeah.
just get somebody to want to hang out with me and want to be around me. And it was just I was really desperate. And the more I think back about it, like I mean, I'm obviously just remembering a lot of the stuff that stands out because of certain incidents or whatever happened.
Mhm.
But I think about so many things where I took things to extremes to try to be funny or just try to get people to be entertained by me or to try to just make something new happen. So people are like, oh, wow, I never saw anything like that. Dana was, and it was, I think back on it, it's so embarrassing. It's like all I really had to do was be nice. Like I just needed to be nice.
You were always entertaining, I think, without even trying. To me,
Oh, I was trying. I was
you were
trying all the
not.
time.
You
Oh,
did
I
not
was
have to
trying.
try around me.
Well, you know,
Uh,
what happens when you practice something? You get good at it, and
It's
repetition. It just becomes like second nature. It's like, oh yeah, I can. I'll be funny.
I mean, it wasn't really hard when you were just sitting there where we were chain smoking and drinking Jack Daniels at 10 a.m. With no children
There you go.
in our 20s. It was a beautiful thing. It makes it a
Yeah,
little
just sitting
easier.
on the couch, hanging out, day drinking.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
a lovely time.
It was a fabulous thing. You know, that'd be like Brian and I, 420. Hello.
On Easter.
Yeah, Easter. My grandmother banging on the window. What's going on? How come I
And-
can't see across the room?
Honestly, this is the best part about day drinking is that usually you've got time to drink a bunch of water by the end of the day, and the next day you don't have a hangover.
Right. That's right.
So there's no negative side to day drinking, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, I going back to your question though, I think it's interesting now. I'm much more choosy and I keep my distance.
Mm.
Like I don't really,
Protecting,
you know,
yeah.
people like it's always interesting. People are like, how do you make friends in your 30s? And I'm like, why would you want to?
Right?
You
I
know-
have so
you know
much
what I mean?
baggage. Why do I want to intermingle with all this other
I'm
baggage
like-
out there?
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I'm not out there looking, right? If it comes, I feel like it'll come naturally. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it happens. It's fine.
That's what I found,
And that's
yeah.
cool. Yeah, you know. I don't need to go looking for it. I got enough. And I don't know. You know, I do remember as a kid always feeling lonely. I don't feel lonely anymore.
Hmm.
Ever. I like being alone.
Yeah.
I always got things to
too,
do.
huh?
I'm busy. You know what I mean? Like I got shit to edit. I got shows to do. I got tweets to tweet.
Yeah.
TikToks
Well,
to make. I don't
I
got
got
time to be
tweets to
lonely.
tweet.
What's one of the biggest?
I got things to be tweeted.
I think both of these spectrums, like the person that walls off their emotional side and the person that really embraces it and dives into it, I think that both of those people use those as kind of like coping mechanisms. Like one's trying to solve that emotional problem to resolve a conflict,
Yeah.
and the other one's just avoiding the conflict altogether and pretending like it doesn't exist.
Well,
But they're both
think
coping mechanisms.
depending on who you're around, you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
do you, you know what I mean? Like, depending on where I'm at, who I'm around, like, I'll wall everything off, put it away, and I'll deal with it at a later date.
Sure.
You know, like, I
Oh,
will
yeah.
check the baggage and move on.
That's a hard one. I don't know. I wish I had that ability. You know, as soon as something
A
happens,
lot of practice.
immediately I want to just dive into it and find the resolution. And I'll stay in that headspace.
Sometimes there is no resolution.
Yeah, I know. And I'll stay
That's
there.
unfortunate.
That's the
Figure it out.
hardest. That
That
was
is
the
the
hardest thing.
hardest.
Being in therapy, and she finally the one day she was like, "What could he say to you that would make you feel better?" And I really like sat down and thought about that, you know, or what could my mother say to me that would make me feel better?
Mhm.
Anyway, you know,
And you're just like, I don't think they have the capability to understand
Well,
what it would
that's
take
the
to
first
say
thing.
that.
I'm
Yeah.
like, they couldn't. First off, they could, you know what I mean, and I'm aware of the fact that
Mhm.
they couldn't even understand what I needed. Number one, and
Yeah.
number two, even if they could, there really isn't anything they could say that would make it better, right? Because
Mhm.
it's not about them; it's about me and how I feel,
Mhm.
Yeah.
right?
And it's
Like,
hard to come to that realization because when you're always thinking about everybody else, now it's time you have to think about you.
And
That feels
and that was the hard
uncomfortable.
thing. You know, when you spend 10 years in a relationship and you start to have this idea, oh, it's you know, this and this person,
Hmm.
and then that has to separate and you have businesses together and you do all the thing, and then it's like, wait, who am I? Who the hell am I?
Oh yeah,
You know, there was this huge identity crisis that
all
came with
these
that.
things that I used to like, I don't even want to do anymore. What do I even
Yeah.
like? Yeah,
Yeah. Like, I don't know what I like to do. I don't know what my favorite color is. I didn't know, you know, it's like, well, I don't even know what I like really to cook, because it was like, oh, I
yeah,
made things that, you know,
yeah,
I didn't know. I really didn't. And then I didn't even know that I didn't know until it happened,
yeah.
you know, and then all those firsts of being alone and like, oh, well, who's going to mash the potatoes on Easter?
Hmm. You
You.
are.
Yeah. And you know what I mean? And like, that was
And
a
you know
really
what?
emotional thing for me.
I'm a little particular about how I mash my potatoes, and I really enjoy doing it myself. They
Well,
always
there
turn
was
out
other
great.
things that I was,
Makes them.
you know what I mean? Like, there
I
was
know.
enough things that I was in control of. You can handle mashing the fucking potatoes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So anyway,
And let me tell you,
Joe does all the cooking.
one Thanksgiving, and it was the last one we spent together, right? And I didn't do a fucking thing.
yeah.
So angry at me. So he didn't do anything. He didn't do anything. Yeah.
How many Thanksgivings did I not do anything? Let's keep a tally. See, that's another thing. What about this one? Do you ever get yourself into the point where you've given up trying to work on the emotional part and it just becomes a scorecard? Like,
Oh yeah.
you did this thing, made me upset. Yeah, well, you did this thing, made me upset. You did this thing, made me upset. Well, you
Oh,
did
yeah.
this thing, made me upset. And you just go back and forth volleying your
Uh-huh.
complaints at each other. You don't
Yeah.
ever dig into the feelings because you know it's pointless. You're just
Were
gonna.
you flirting with him? Okay, yeah, but you lied about this when you deleted his comment and tried to hide it, and you did this and you did that, and you locked your phone, and you blah, blah.
Yeah.
It just goes
See,
back and forth, and it's
And none of that matters.
My only rule is if you're flirting with them and you're gonna do something with them, just bring them home so I can share
Well,
too. You know what I'm saying?
right. My thing is I didn't genuinely care, right? Like, I don't care because I'm not worried. But
Yeah.
don't come at me and get mad. Like, you know, like there was one time, it was in the very beginning, right? Shannon, I don't know if you were there, but Shannon, our other friend, the tall one that looks like Lurch, we were gonna go out dancing, right?
Lisa.
So no, it was a dude. So I called. We weren't even living together, right? You know, 2 hours away. I said, well, you know, we're gonna go out dancing. You know, I know you don't dance, but you know, my friends and I are gonna go out and we all dance. And you know, my one friend's a guy friend. We don't dance nicely, so I want you to know I don't want you to get upset, right? Like, this is what we do because you know, I'm 22. I'm not changing who the hell I am.
Mhm.
And right in front of him, and I kept pulling him, trying to get him to come up and dance with us. Didn't the biggest fight, fit throwing, happen? And like my one girlfriend like stormed off and like defended him and like threw a fit, and I'm like, wait a minute. Before I even asked, I said, this is what we're doing. If that's going to make you uncomfortable, please don't come. Because I haven't got to do this in forever, and I want to go have a night with my friends. You don't like to dance, so if you don't want to dance and you're going to be uncomfortable with me dancing with my friends, don't come.
Mhm.
And then you came, and you got pissed off. It wasn't like I had his junk in my mouth. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
we were just dancing
And the worst part about that is you weren't
in front of you.
You were
And I kept-
completely transparent.
Well, you're married, not
communicated
dead.
openly.
No, but this, you know, I mean, we weren't living together. This was very much in the beginning. And like, dude,
Oh.
it said, like right next to me, you know what I mean? Like they were
Yeah.
on the thing next to, and I kept trying to grab him by the hand and pull him up to dance with us. So it wasn't like I was even ignoring him while we were dancing. And things like that would make me absolutely insane.
I feel bad for situations, and I feel bad for that type of person because here I can see from their perspective that they probably wanted to go because they wanted to be a part of your
Right.
fun. They wanted to take part in that, but they didn't have the emotional maturity to understand that they wouldn't be able to handle it. Like they couldn't look into the future and
Right.
say, okay, when this happens and I see this going on, is this going to make me upset? Like
Oh,
that's
but it
not,
turned into like a whole
yeah.
thing where they like hid the car, pretended like drove back 2 hours home,
Mhm.
and the next day, like when I saw him in the morning, he's like, "What do you have to say for yourself?" Oh, you got you.
I'm sorry you got upset.
I don't know who you think
Like,
you're talking to, but it ain't me.
yeah.
What do I have to say for myself? What do you have to say for yourself for embarrassing yourself?
Ta-da.
Like I
Mm.
told you what we were doing.
Yeah. So that all right. So let's talk about this. So we have the conflict and things are flared up. How did the resolution come with that? Like when do you remember back to when you talked about it? Do you ever feel like you made any headway? Like you met eye to eye at the end of it, or was it just a series of like butting heads until you just stopped talking about it?
No, it actually took down a friendship that night for I don't know, like 8 months. Shannon and I didn't talk.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, because that was another one. So she's another one. Cheated on every girlfriend she's ever had. I've always kept the secrets. Was always the secret keeper of everybody's, right? So if anybody's cheating on their spouse, I'm the one that knows. Okay,
Mhm.
it's just the way it works. Always have. So Shannon's always, whatever. So she hid him. She hid him and acted like he went home. Okay.
Mhm.
So I'm getting
Wait, it
pissed
was a
off
guy?
because what?
It was a guy?
It was Joe.
Oh.
So we came back from the club because I drove whatever he left with them because we took two separate cars. Got back to her house because we were staying there, and they acted like he left and went back to Buffalo because he was so devastated because I was dancing with Lurch. And the Dykes were right there dancing with us. You know what I mean? It wasn't even like it was just him and I. But Shannon just thought I was so evil for doing that.
Okay. So
Um,
you Patrick Swayze with Lurch, and then that created a "I'm going home because you're the worst person ever" situation.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so
And
after
Shannon,
that, like
yeah.
when you actually got together and talked about it, like what was that even like?
Well, what do you have to say for yourself?
Yeah.
I just remember me like barking back, and then me powering my opinion, of course. And two, at the time now,
Oh,
20 years later, almost, no, not almost 20 years later, but a lot of years later, I do see the flaws in my thinking, right? I should have been more sensitive and
Yeah.
understanding of the situation, right? And I was being quite the prick.
Yeah.
And I should have just honestly never invited him.
Yeah.
Probably would have solved the whole thing. Or just not done it. That probably would have been the better choice. There's that. I definitely was not a very sensitive person
Hmm.
to him. I'd been through the ringer at that point. Every relationship I had, I'd been used. It was always very transactional.
Hmm.
And I was not used to somebody being like that.
Yeah, like hurt by your actions, like somewhat possessive, like
Yeah,
they
I was
wanted,
always the
they
hurt
wanted
one.
to be exclusive, and yeah.
I was the hurt one. I was always the one kind of being hurt. So it was a very, very strange
Yeah, a little role reversal.
thing, and I definitely was not the sensitive person I should have been.
Well, because how were you treated in those situations?
Yeah, and I didn't
You
know. I
probably
didn't.
learned it.
Not that
Yeah.
it's an excuse, you know what I mean? But I
Yeah.
honestly, genuinely did not realize or know how shitty I was being until later.
Yeah. And imagine how much easier it would be to have a conversation about, like, instead of you did this and then you said this and then you
Yeah.
did this, to say, hey, remember that stuff I did? I felt like this when that happened.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't trying to make you feel bad. I was just trying to have fun. My intention was to have a good time, and I brought you with me because I wanted you to have a good time too. And it made me upset. I felt bad that you were kind of crapping on my good time when I told you what it was going to be like. And then from their perspective, they can say, well, I really couldn't figure this out. I didn't realize it was going to be like this. I was really upset. I mean, you can both look at each other and say, wow, I see your intention here. You didn't mean to hurt me. I see your intention here. You didn't mean to ruin my night. Both of you came at it from a place where you were ignorant of each other's feelings. And now that you know each other's feelings, maybe there could be some kind of rebuilding there. I think in a lot of cases, people get caught up so much in the emotion of the argument itself and a
Yes.
conflict that they miss the point of what they're even talking about. Like they can't go back and really resolve the issue because the negotiation about the issue, I think that churns up even more conflict and can actually make it worse if you're not prepared to actually talk about what's behind your actions.
Mhm.
Well, most people seek to be understood and then understand the other person, whereas really it should be the other way around, where we seek to understand the other person before we try to be understood ourselves.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the first thing I remember, I've done this for so many years. Like when somebody does something that seems to have hurt my feelings in some way, and I just can't understand it. I'm just like, why would you do that? Because I want to know why. We know that whatever the thing is that happened that made the person upset, it happened, whatever, that's done. But why? I just want to know, why would you do that?
Yeah.
And usually when I hear the answer, I'm like, okay, well, that makes sense. Now I know why you did that. I don't know. I think a lot of times people get caught up in well, you did this thing, so now I'm going to do this thing. And like a retribution, or you did this thing, now I want you to repay me. Let's see if you can make it up to me by doing other things. Like, it's all about these things, and it's never really about like seeing eye to eye, and that's what brings people together instead of tearing them apart.
Yeah. What about you, BC?
You're Brian.
What about me?
Wait,
What
your
about-
relationships.
Yeah.
Well, I was always. I'm getting better at communicating.
Do you get a little? I believe it's called a stonewall. Do you stonewall your husband? So like if he makes you upset, do you passive aggressively?
Oh no, I'm all aggressive.
Oh, you're fully aggressive. Okay.
Yeah,
So you make him aware of your discomfort.
Oh yeah.
Now, what makes you feel better?
It's like a chihuahua.
When there's an argument and you try to seek a resolution to the argument, do you want something like a balancing of the scales or some kind of justice where you get something in return, or you see that you've inflicted an equal amount of pain on them through remorse, or like are you looking for that kind of payoff, or are you looking to bond together about something and like come to an agreement?
Yeah, mostly trying to come to an agreement. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just like the conflict to end. So.
I see so many people in relationships where the husband will do something that's crappy, like say he'll go out drinking with his buddies and come home, and then he's just a jerk. He'll just like start yelling at the kids and his wife or whatever, and like just be verbally abusive. And you'll see the other person in the relationship that's like, it's fine, I can deal with it because he's going to pay. He's going to take me and buy me this thing, and he's going to take me out to dinner, and I'm going to get what I want. Instead of like coming to any kind of like real understanding with each other, they are like, forget all that. I don't care about that. I just want my payoff for his bad behavior.
Transactional.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know what we've ever really had that type of relationship. I mean, we have our issues, but that's not like a transactional thing.
What's scary though is imagine two people that both function that way. They could have a perfectly functional relationship. They'd be like, well, I'll try not to do something bad because I don't want to have to pay for it. And the other person's like, I hope he does something bad, so he has to pay for it. Then vice versa. Like,
I know a lot of people like that.
Imagine that entire relationship. Imagine like being married for 50 years, that's how it goes back and forth the entire time, and both of you are perfectly okay with it.
Well, like honestly, when I first met Joe, he smoked cigarettes and he was a bartender. He drank all the time. He used to come home drunk, like shit-faced drunk all the time. And like I told him, like the smoking stopped immediately because I told him straight up, if you smoke a cigarette, I will not kiss you for the rest of the day. Until you brush your teeth again, I won't kiss you. So he stopped smoking.
Mm-hmm.
And then with the drinking, I was just like, I'm not gonna live in a household where somebody comes home drunk all the time. Like,
Yeah, you have a
we had to have a conversation about how I grew up and stuff, and how that's not gonna. He was never mean or anything like that, but that wasn't the point. Like, just him
Sure.
being that drunk is a trigger to me.
Yeah.
But you-
And you've
Unless I'm
never-
also that drunk.
Now, I don't know if you made it clear to him or not, but it sounds like you
Oh, no, I
communicated
definitely
pretty clearly. Like, the smoking thing, that's just gross. I don't want to kiss you because it's just yucky, and I care about your health.
But
like, I don't
but
want
he
that.
also was respectful enough to like
Mhm.
take what I was saying and apply
Yeah.
it to his life. Like,
Yeah, but why? But why did he do it? Because
no, I'm
he
saying
didn't
because
do
he
it-
loved me.
Yeah, he didn't do it because he's like, well, I've got to do this if I'm going to get what I want. He did it because he cared about your feelings
Yeah,
and your needs
I
and your wants. The same thing with the drinking. Like, you had your talk about your past and your childhood and like when you were
Yeah.
growing up. Did he do that because he felt bad because he got in trouble and he didn't want to make
No.
you mad and get him in trouble more? Or did he do that because he honestly understood that like your history made it hurt you, and he didn't
Yeah.
want to hurt you?
Well, not alone. It wasn't like I said, you're never drink, like you're not doing that anymore, and it just stopped. Like he would have, he was a bartender, so
Oh yeah,
sometimes I'm like, "Are you drunk?" He would never lie to me about it though.
oh,
Which, what's that? Yeah, he'd be like, "What?" I'm like, "You're," because you can like, he
Yeah.
drinks fucking whiskey, so like I can smell. Like, you're drunk.
yeah. You smell like an oak
So,
barrel,
like,
buddy.
Yeah, you're definitely drunk. But yeah, those were our only real two things in the beginning that
Yeah.
were like, I won't deal with. Like you can smoke pot all you want, but no cigarettes. Like you can smoke pot and blow it in my face, but no
Well,
cigarettes.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like making accommodations for each other because you care about each other. Like,
Yeah,
you don't feel like
Well,
what
it's-
you're
it's-
doing. You don't feel like the things that you ask of him are more important or outweigh the things he asks of you, right? Like, he probably
Yeah.
has things that he wants to do or things that he likes. Does he ever ask you to stop something that you wanted to do and you did? Because
yeah,
you
watching
cared
the
about him?
news.
Well, yeah, there you go. I mean,
No, we really had to come to like an actual, like I promised I would only watch one show a day.
mhm.
Like, and that was it. I'd pick whatever show I wanted to watch. That was the only
Yeah.
show. And I
so
would.
you have a
Yeah, you have to have
So
come
it's
to
not
an
like you have-
understanding with you.
you feel like you guys have a pretty good balance, right? Like,
Yeah,
you guys really you address each
but
other's
it,
concerns.
I think it also doesn't happen like just like I would like you to do this, and he's like, okay, I'll do that. Like, there's definitely we've had to work on like communication.
You motherfucker! Stop
Yeah,
watching the
exactly.
goddamn.
I'm sick of this fucking news. I don't want to take control of my life.
So, I mean, it sounds like you guys have a pretty good relationship. I mean, granted,
No, we do, yeah. But I'm saying,
Like, so-
I guess what I'm trying to say is like it's not normal for people to never fight or anything.
right? No, people
No.
fight all the time, but the point
But
is,
you
like,
have
when
to-
you do have the fight, when it's all over, do you feel like you both really understand where each other's perspectives were, and that you
Yeah.
both care about each other?
Well, and that also takes like an ability to say like I was wrong here, here, and here, but
Yeah.
I also was doing that because of this, and that.
Mhm.
And the person has to like understand you, and like a lot of times I'll preface something by saying like this
Yeah.
isn't an excuse, it's an explanation, because that
Yeah.
kind of softens. Because sometimes people think you're just trying to excuse your behavior.
Yeah.
Like like I have like severe bipolar whatever depression, so like
Oh, dear.
sometimes I fly off the handle and I need to like
Gotta reel it in.
apologize for, well, not only but I have to apologize because I go fucking batshit on
Oh
people
boy.
verbally.
You know, and
I mean,
that's
I've gotten a
hard
lot
for me to
better.
visualize because I see you as such like
It's
you're such
passion.
a
It's passion.
yeah. I see you get passionate about some of the things like you talk about, like from the
I remember
news,
one time.
obviously.
I'll give you an example. One time,
Oh shit.
my little brother was in high school at the time, and he called me from ISS or something, and told me that they put him in ISS. He didn't do anything wrong, and they're being assholes. And my mom doesn't care; she won't come up and get him. Like, and my brother also won't like come help him. Like, everyone's just left him stranded, and he didn't do anything. So instead of like thinking to myself like this doesn't sound right, I drove over to my mom's house, and her and my brother are standing out in the backyard. And I went back out there and I was like, "You don't care about your son." Blah. I just like literally flipped out on her, and she was like,
yeah.
"Whoa, what the fuck?" And my
Well,
brother,
yeah. Well,
and then
here's
it
the thing:
turned
is
into a
like,
whole.
you
Yeah.
saw a deficit. You saw like, I understand how this person feels. You crapped on them, and there's hurt feelings there. I see
Oh, yeah.
two people that should care just as much about the situation, and you don't.
I guess
And I'm going
a-
to make you very aware how passionately I feel that you should feel this way too. Like,
yeah. Well, I'm a bit of a pit bull when it
Uh-huh.
comes to like things. So like, but sometimes I go after the wrong person.
it is unjustifiable that you do not feel guilty for your actions.
Here's another perfect example. My cousin and her husband, who were always very nice to me. There was like some type of tournament going on, and it was for like my uncle or something, and it was a golfing tournament, and they asked me if I wanted to come, and I was like, "Oh yeah."
And then
And her husband wrote back, "Well, if Brian's coming, I'm not coming," which is not what he meant. He meant if Brian's going to be on the team, then I don't need to come because there'll be too many people on the team. But I took it as he was being homophobic. And so I ripped his ass up, and I didn't like. I said some really fucking crazy.
metaphorically.
Shit. Oh, like I tried to ruin their marriage. Like I talked about him like fucking guys. Like I went nuts.
Oh boy. And he was like,
And
"No,
then
I
until
just
I
meant, like, I
realized-
don't need to come because you guys got enough people."
Well, he tried to be like, I'm not even, like it got like I went way overboard. I don't remember the entire conversation because that's another thing that when I don't take my meds, you get to that point where you get so mad you don't remember what you said. I don't remember exactly what I said, but I know it was very terrible and hurtful.
You just had
That's
stuff
what I
on deck and it was just flying off the hook.
Oh yeah.
See,
And my cousin, who was like one of my favorite cousins, like we were,
I do
fairly
something
close.
equally as destructive, but instead of pointing it out, I point it right in at me.
No, I always
Yeah.
pointed it outwards. And then I pointed it at me after I pointed it outwards.
Yeah. You definitely have that. Psycho, but I think that's the amazing part though, is that you're seeing it, right? And you know it.
Yeah.
And you've grown from all that, you know? Like you've
Well, I
come
don't
leaps and
want my
bounds.
son. I don't want my son to have to go through that because
Oh, I know.
that's just not fair.
Yeah, the worst part's when you
We're
start
changing.
identifying your negative emotional traits in your kids, and you're like,
Oh
we gotta
yeah.
talk about those feelings. Let's talk about them. Come on, buddy. I know it sucks, but we gotta do it. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Yep.
Ta-da.
Yeah, we're doing that now. We're talking to the 10-year-old like, your feelings are not wrong. You're allowed to say however it is you feel, whether I like it or not.
Yeah.
It's
That's
what you
okay.
do with those feelings. Like, you're
Yeah,
angry
exactly.
right now, dude. Yeah, people get angry. You can be angry. It's good to be angry. Get through it. Work through it. But don't work through it by knocking the TV over and peeing on it, because that's not
Right.
going to make anybody happy.
And honestly, to throw it back really quick, if we taught boys that from an early age, I don't think we would have the gun violence that we have because,
Right.
to be honest, not one of the mass shootings has been from a woman or a girl or anybody who's feminine. It's all masculine men.
Yeah, because they're taught to just keep to avoid.
It's not okay to have those feelings. Yeah.
What does it say about the gay men that all are in love with the toxic masculinity?
Wow.
That's
we love a
probably
good
like
dick,
there's
so.
got to be a daddy thing going on there.
That is another episode.
We just think there's a hot dick.
Ding
Wrong
ding.
And
There's
the boys
Kelly
took
with her
over.
bell.
Yeah. And that's how we ended up this way, kids. We're 4 minutes over. We gotta go. We love you. I will not be on next week, so I hope you boys have fun with the girls. I'll be traveling back from Atlanta.
Yeah.
Yes. And yeah, we'll see you next. Well, they'll see you next week, and I'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Finger guns.
Oh my god, my glasses are all crooked.